So I was extremely fortunate to have Amazon send me another DC charger, and it basically came overnight as well. So yesterday morning I woke up and the lights went out. I woke up and literally within 4 minutes of me waking up, it was just a big click, bang, no electricity. It sucked. I have to redo my little battery monitor gauge and understand that lithium batteries are totally different than lead acid batteries in terms of their state of charge, right? So a lead acid battery in its state of charge is going to be something like 12.6 volts. Whereas a lithium, a lead acid battery that is completely full is going to be about 12.6 volts. That's full. And then drained is, I don't know, 11 point something. A lithium battery full, I believe, is about 13.6 volts. I could be wrong, 13.6, 13.4, somewhere in the 13s. And one of those two. Where it charges at, it can charge up to 14.6. And then dead, where it shuts off, and I'll tell you, mine does it a little bit sooner. That's a fact. Well, I'd have to drain it out and then just watch it at its last little voltages of life. Does that make sense? And then watch it just cut off. I feel like it cuts off at like, here's the deal. I go to bed, it says 13 volts. Well, I get into bed, right? It's 13 volts. It's hovering around 13 and 12.9. And then, I got a fan going because I have to. My phone is plugged in. So my cell phone takes 2 amps. I'm going to assume that's pretty standard for most big cell phones. My cell phone is a Samsung. It's a Note 20 Ultra. So, but I also have an iPhone 11 Pro Max, which is also about the same. So it's about 2 amps that it's pulling. So we got a fan. The fan on medium is about 2 point something. Just say 2.5 amps. The phone's gonna be. My fan is gonna be 2.5 amps. My cell phone's gonna be about another 2 amps, and then we'll have just any other thing. Then we'll have just any other thing that's plugged in, as far as watches and I don't know. I'm missing something. So while I'm sleeping, it will say 13 volts. I get into bed. When I get into bed, it's going to read about 13 volts. And then it's fluctuating between 12.9, 13, 12.9, 13. And then just before I fall off to snooze land, it'll be something like 12.8, right? And then I wake up, dead. So now I know it's official. If my battery monitor gauge thingy reads something like 12.9, 12.8, and I'm going to bed with a fan on and cell phone plugged in and all those good things, I will wake up probably with no electricity. So I got to reset that gauge and check it out and then verify it with a voltage meter. Anyways, let's talk really quickly about this DC charger. My experience has been really good. Now it gives me a third source of no worry, where I have solar. So during the summertime, I could tell you this. I'll brief you because I'm going to make another video on living in Las Vegas this week. I think probably today. I arrived here 1 year ago. So I've been here for 1 full year, which is February. So I got that season, which is coming out of winter. And that's spring-like season, because technically February is going to be kind of like spring compared to where I'm from. And a whole entire summer uninterrupted. I didn't leave. I didn't move somewhere else. So I got that whole experience. And then that fall right into winter, and now coming out of winter again. So completely, and I already lived here 3 years ago, so I really have a good solid picture and what it's like to live here. One, in a regular home, doing the regular thing, and 2, in a van doing the van life thing. So, with all that said, I'm going to make a video really breaking down and describing, which will probably be long because you know me, I like to talk, really breaking down and describing the details of living in a van, living in extreme heat temperatures, and how that would seem like it would just absolutely kill you to most people if they never experienced it. I'll give you a little bit of a hint. It's not that serious. So, DC to DC charger adds a bonus, especially during the winter times, you know, shorter days, less peak, high sun. The peak nowadays at this time of year, from my solar, I'm getting about 9 amps. Whereas in the summertime, peak July, I'd get about 16.5, 16.4 would pretty much be my most. Maybe I'm parked somewhere on a slight angle and I might hit 17. It happened. So that's 300 watts. Soon enough, though, that will be 460. And then these other 100 watt panels, I'm going to slowly swap those out to 160 watt panels because the dimensions are not that much bigger. We're talking about 3 inches and 2 inches, or I'll get you the exact ones. However, during the summertime, I never ever had to think about my battery, electricity, lights, power. Never. My battery was completely topped off, very full all day long. Matter of fact, even if I'm on my laptop, even on the PlayStation by itself will be somewhere around 11 amps while using it, including the monitor, the whole 9 yards. But I'm bringing in 16 amps, so it doesn't even matter. Even if it was 15 or 16 amp usage, which it isn't, it still wouldn't matter. My battery would still stay full because I'd be running it off of the sun. Done it a million times. My laptop, which is a 2012 MacBook Pro, all the goodies. Well, it's a MacBook Pro, so i7, 16 gig RAM, the whole 9 yards. So that's going to pull about 5 or 6 amps typically. If I gaming, which would be Minecraft, which is going to be, you know, pulling in those graphics cards, then I might get up to somewhere like 8-9 amps for a pull. Again, not a big deal. Summertime, you know, early May to September, mid-September, nothing. I don't ever have to worry about electricity. So I got the DC to DC charger because winter, right? This is my first winter living here in Las Vegas, especially living here in my van. I had no issues prior, as stated. However, I decided, let me get the DC charger and see if that will make my life a little easier. The continuous solenoid, the continuous duty solenoid that I had since kind of day one, it's like a flow thing. It would never allow anything more than like 6 or 7 amps through. So that's way above my knowledge abilities when it comes to electricity and flow, and I have no idea. I could just tell you what gauge wire you need with so many amps. Yeah, it never anything past 6 or 7 amps. It was never really a thing. It was always just a trickle charge. So anyways, the DC charger is 40 amps. It will push 40 amps to the battery. I've tested it. I have a clamp meter right here, 12 volt. I'm sorry, DC clamp meter. It's also DC. And actually, you know what? This is fairly cheap. Again, Amazon. This guy right here. Love this. Love this. I wish I had one of these. Well, I always had a clamp meter, but not a DC. I'll just show you really quick. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it. Right there. It says AC. Press this button. DC. Okay, so I have clamped it here, the positive out, the negative out, both the same, and I'd get 40 amps. I think I was getting even a little bit more, maybe even like 41. I'll double verify that, but definitely 40 amp output. So it wasn't like Renogy says it's 40, but you're only getting 37. However, just FYI, the input from the alternator was about 51 amps coming into the unit. So it's pulling more than 40. It's pulling about 50. What you need to know is that's all modulating, which means as that battery gets more and more and more full, the amp output and the amp input to the unit itself is going to get reduced. So there was a time when it was fairly charged. I didn't really know that at the time, but when I clamped it, it was only about 4 or 5 amps. So I'm like, oh no, what's the problem? And then I started turning everything on, laptops, PS4, monitors, lights, heater, everything I had, everything I could think of. And as the battery was being taxed, the amp output to the battery was increasing. Also, the input coming in from the alternator was also increasing. So like I said, it's modulating, it will die down. I don't have a high output alternator on this van. I have a higher than the factory one that it came with, which I believe is 110. Don't quote me on these at all. I'm really guessing. I believe it's 110 from the factory, and I could be totally wrong on that. It could be like 90 something. However, I upgraded it, or I replaced my alternator at one time, and when I did, I tried to get the one with the most amps, which I believe is either 130 or 140 amps. So I can tell you this, I had that DC charger since November 30th. It was installed November 30th. And it ran up until just a couple days ago, I'm assuming, because I remember my battery was always a little on the low side. When I climbed into bed at night, I'm like, I haven't seen you at 14 volts in a really long time, or high 13s. It's always, crawling to bed, it was always 13.1 and 13.2, which was just what it was getting from the sun. So I think it already failed prior to yesterday. I think it was doing that for the last 2-3 days. That's pretty much it, besides me just babbling. It's been really amazing all through the winter in the really, daylight savings and the whole 4 o'clock dark thing. Drive it for an hour. I mean, it's 40 amps, so you have to understand that's basically technically 40 amps per hour, okay? So if you drive it, that's literally a half a battery, just about, almost. 2 hours, not a big deal. If you got something major to do like I would, and I know a lot of people don't do this, living in their vans and vehicles and things like that. So take all my information and you can shrink it down to your world or explode it if you need to. In my world, if I'm doing something, let's say I was just going to have a massive gaming session and I turn on the PS4, I have a generator too, don't forget that. I could turn my vehicle on, I could start it, and do that for an hour, which I'd rather not do. When it comes to idling a vehicle, I'm not really a fan of it. You should go look it up if you have any questions or concerns about that. But I don't really know if they're theories or not. All I know is my motor is about 17,000 miles on it. And I already lost the motor. This is my house. I made videos discussing this topic. This is my vehicle and my house all at the same time. So when it comes to my motor and my transmission, it's all very sacred to me, and I baby everything. My oil gets replaced, I don't know, monthly is my goal. Listen, oil is not that expensive. Even synthetic oil, which is, 10W30 is what I put in here, Mobile One filter, it's not that much money. The filter's $9. The oil is 30 something, unless it's on sale. You're talking less than $50 for a motor that costs, at the time, 3 years ago, was $1,600. I think they're a little bit more nowadays. And I certainly, if I lost it, I wouldn't want to just go buy another crate motor. I'd want to get something a little beefier. So now we're at least $2,500. So yeah, $50 compared to, I'm done with that. Go watch my video about, are you doing it right? So yeah, DC charger has been absolutely amazing. Just knowing that I'm sitting in a parking lot somewhere in Las Vegas. I'm on the laptop, Minecrafting. It's what I do. And I'm really hammering down that battery. And then I'm like, hey, you know what? Let's go off to the dry lake. Let's go to Boulder City. Let's go to Boulder Dry Lake tonight. And that'll be fun. Matter of fact, I don't even know I do, because I got an appointment tomorrow. But tomorrow night, I'll be there. Yeah, and then you drive. By the time you get there, you're going to have a nice, good, probably, we're assuming your battery is dead, and it shouldn't be dead at all. Let's say my battery is 40%, by the time I get there, I'm going to be 80, 90%. You're talking maybe 30-minute drive. So, yeah, it's been really good to me. Again, through the winter months has been comparable to the summer months. I haven't had to think about electricity at all, except for the last couple of days where it was failing on me and I didn't know it was failing until I heard random clicking, and then I saw the fault light, and then I look, and then it all made sense. Like, you were never fully charged. You haven't been fully charged in about 3 days. Yeah, because a couple mornings, it wasn't just yesterday morning, but there's been a couple mornings where it's been interesting. Why are you so weak? Because I'm not used to my battery I'm not used to seeing 12 point something volts on my battery. Typically, I'd go to bed at 13.3, 13.2. And then in the morning, I might be 12.9, but typically still right around 13 volts. And again, I only have a 100 amp hour battery. That's it. It's a regular 12 volt, 100 amp hour lithium battery. I need to get another one at minimum. And I'm a little mad about that too, because I spent $600 for that battery. And then you go and you look, and the same manufacturer makes a 200 amp hour battery, just a bigger casing, 200 amp hour battery, and it would be $1,200, or it'd be, well, not 1,200, it'd be 900 or 1,000. And it's like, okay. Because then if you add two of them side by side, which this is the regular one, right? This is the 200 amp hour one, literally. So now you get two of them side by side, you got 400 amp hours. That's a whole nother thing too, because the bigger the battery bank, the more power you need to get that power back in when you drain it down. If you pull it down 50%, that's 200 amp hours. Well, you need a lot of power, right, to get that back in. 5-gallon bucket. You got to get how many gallons per minute can you flow into get the 5-gallon bucket back up full. You understand? Okay, beautiful. So that's it. Thank you for watching me. Thank you for watching my once a year video. I hope you come back next year, 2023, when I decide to make another video. I won't. I promise I won't. Tomorrow I'm going to definitely 100% wake up and immediately begin recording like this to show you guys these curtains. Not that big of a deal. Most RVs have them. Most truckers have them, which I never really thought about like that. And that's my watch telling me to shut up. Have a good night.